We do what no other network does.
We sting like no other network stings.
We confront those who no other network can.
We fight back like no other network can.
We go where no other network goes.
We've endured what no other network has endured.
We ask what no other network asks.
Digital first, nation first, republic first. Digital first like nothing else. On your TV, on any screen, Republic TV News Channel is now streaming on We app. Thank you for joining us here on Republic TV. You're watching the biggest story tonight. I'm Niranjan. It's 7 p.m. and in less than 20 hours from now, India's moon mission Chandrayaan-3 will lift off. That's our focus over the next 30 minutes. It's a big moment for India, and we're counting down to that. We have some experts joining us on the broadcast tonight. Here are the headlines on the biggest story tonight. Countdown begins to India's third moon mission. Prime Minister Modi lands in France for an agenda-packed visit. Another game-changer, Rafale Navy jet deal on the cards. India could be purchasing 26 of them. Yamuna levels at a record high. Delhi is flooded. Brutal crackdown on BJP protests in Patna. One BJP worker has been killed in lathi charge. BJP claims one of their general secretaries in a district in Bihar has been killed by the crackdown by Bihar police. Kumaraswamy accuses Congress government of corruption, shows a rate card, submits what he calls proof in the assembly. The Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, has announced that the Chandrayaan-3 mission is scheduled to be launched at 2:35 p.m. That's tomorrow, 2:35 p.m. with the lander expected to soft land on the surface of the moon on the 23rd of August or the 24th. Chandrayaan-3 is a follow-up of Chandrayaan-2, and it will demonstrate end-to-end capability in safe landing and roving on the lunar surface. Now, the Chandrayaan-3 spacecraft, which will be launched by the Launch Vehicle Mark III or LVM-3, earlier referred to as GSLV Mark III, is a composite module, has 3 modules, a propulsion, lander, rover, and Secretary of the Department of Space and ISRO Chairman Somanath, speaking to Republic TV earlier, spoke about how the approach of ISRO has been to learn from their failures, and they've done that. They're very confident that this time we will be successfully landing, making India the 4th country after US, Russia and China to successfully land on the moon. They would be attempting a soft landing of the lander on the 23rd or 24th of August, and ISRO officials also noting that the mission life of the lander is 1 lunar day, which is equal to 14 Earth days. Chandrayaan-3 mission carries scientific instruments to study the thermophysical properties of the lunar regolith, lunar seismicity and lunar surface plasma environment and elemental composition. Now, these are some of the experiments that will be conducted on the surface of the moon on the vicinity of the landing site. Now, before we get into the details, we have some experts joining us, including a former chief of ISRO on the broadcast. Let's quickly introduce them. G. Madhavan Nair, former chairman ISRO, is joining us on the broadcast. Good evening, sir. We have Srijan Pal Singh, founder Kalam Center and CEO of Homi Labs. Hi, Srijan. We also have Dr. Ramesh Kapoor. Dr. Ramesh Kapoor, astrophysicist and former professor, Indian Institute of Astrophysics in Bengaluru. Takes us back to 2019 when I remember speaking to each one of you during Chandrayaan-3. And I remember Mr. Madhavan Nair was also there. Let me start with you, Mr. Nair. It's India's second attempt to land on the moon in the last 4 years. Now, what went wrong in the last mission, and what are the changes in Chandrayaan-3?
Well, as you know, 4 years back, the Chandrayaan-3 was launched, and unfortunately, it didn't succeed completely. But to the redeeming factor was the satellite, along with the orbiter and the landing module. Everything has reached the desired orbit, and also the descending maneuver was perfectly all right until about 2 kilometers above the surface of the moon. At that time, some glitch has caused the spacecraft to tumble and crash land on the lunar surface. So that has led to the mission failure. The velocity with which it was hitting was quite high. So with the result, the entire spacecraft would have disintegrated. Now, the data which was available about the failure was very meager. But still, I understand the ISRO team has done extensive analysis of the possible reasons and also the remedial actions. And a lot of experiments have been conducted, and configuration changes also has been implemented. Well, to cite a few, the thruster configuration has been modified, the legs have been strengthened, and more than that, the software is built in with a considerable amount of redundancy. In case some of the sensors or some of the actuators fail, how to see that still the mission succeeds, that has been approached. Of course, as Dr. Somnath has mentioned, ISRO has always been in the mode of learning from even the smallest failure and then try to emerge successful in the subsequent ones. The lessons learned from the Chandrayaan-2 has been very valuable, and that has gone a long way in implementing the modification which is required in the lander module. Certainly, this is going to be a very complex mission as in the Chandrayaan-2. It has got the same sequence. It has to rise from the Earth's orbit and then later go to the moon and the orbiter around that. And after everything stabilizes, the lander has to be detached. The landing process is really complex. It is an unknown territory, and practically there is no external aid available to guide the system. Everything is autonomous on board. The sensors which is built in, the inertial sensors and the start sensors will ensure that the spacecraft is guided properly. From a velocity of about 0.6 kilometers per second, it has been brought down to something like 2 meters per second. So this bringing down the velocity of the spacecraft to such an extent without causing any disturbance in the trajectory is really a challenge. Last time, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have reached up to 2 kilometers above the surface of the moon. So this time, I'm sure the last 2 kilometers also will be covered, and we will have a soft landing, and later the rover will roll out of the landing module and conduct the experiments as planned. So ISRO has done all its best, and I'm sure it is going to be a tremendous success and a major milestone in the space exploration history of ISRO.
Yes, yes. Let me take the next question to Dr. Ramesh Kapoor. Dr. Kapoor, what will the spacecraft do after it reaches the moon? What will the rover be looking for? And tell us a little bit about the experiments that we expect will be conducted if and when that landing happens.
There are 4 instruments on the lander, Vikram lander, and there are 2 instruments for the rover. The main thing is that we have to know the selenography, we have to understand the chemical composition, and we have to understand the near the surface exosphere of the moon. And these are the things we need to understand. How the plasma density, for example, varies from the surface as we go up a little bit in height. And you will be, everybody is surprised to note that the moon, which we always thought was barren and there was no water, there was no atmosphere, the Chandrayaan-1 mission brought out that most wonderful discovery, and it was because of our own moon impact probe that hit the surface, and before that it received the signals for the presence of water on the moon. The second thing is that this time we need to understand that how there is what are the properties of the lunar exosphere, because this is also among the recent findings that there are some material in say the particles from the surface, they are rising above the surface, and then they constitute something like an atmosphere, and it falls to the ground as it is time for night on the moon. And as you know that a day on the moon is 14 and a half Earth days, and a similar length of time for the night. So this time, lander and rover have a mission life of the same duration. But here is hoping that after the long hours of the lunar night are over, possibly some instruments will come back to life because the sun is there, and then there are also the solar panels. But most importantly, as you have mentioned already, and Dr. Madhavan Nair has very nicely described, in fact, I feel very small before him to be able to sort of even repeat those things. But there is that instrument called CHASE. It is for the surface thermophysical exploration, where a probe will go about 10 centimeters down into the ground and try to understand. One of the most important things is thermal conductivity. So how between the light time and night time, how the heat is transferred from say lit areas to the dark areas. So that's will be very interesting to know, because the thermal conductivity of the lunar soil is very low. And then we also need to understand the properties of the surface material, and from the mineralogical point of view, we also must know what kind of elements are available there. So there are already indications that magnesium, aluminum, iron, and possibly titanium and thorium are there. And the other instrument that rover has is for the it will be impinging alpha particles from a radioactive material. It's curium-244, and as we receive them back, so how what kind of signals we get from there, we are going to understand the surface plasma properties. Then we also can get to know the electron density of that place and how it varies with time.
Yeah. Let me take the next question to Srijan. Srijan, India will be the fourth after the US, China, Russia, when we land on the moon. Now, for India's space program, what will this mean? Because this has been a dream project for us.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic dream project. It's a great leap. And as Neil Armstrong once put when he landed on moon, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Before I begin your answer, I would like to acknowledge, how privileged I feel in the presence of Dr. Madhavan, because he's also the pioneer of India's moon program. Chandrayaan-3 was all done under him. And Dr. Kalam and Dr. Madhavan share a great bond of friendship. See, I think India going into moon has, in two dimensions, one has to look at it. One is in terms of our nation's scientific might. It is a proof of concept that India, a country which is 75 years old only, we are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And in that Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, just as we complete those 75 years, we are now going to moon, a country which just began its journey. Compared to everyone else, we were discounted off. So I think it's a great testimony of our scientific acumen, our academic rigor, and our ancient, also the scriptures, what we talk about, the great knowledge which we created. It's a continuum of that Indian culture. In terms of also from a scientific perspective, moon is going to be a very important destination in times ahead. Just like, Columbus discovered the New World, the Americas, and then there was a race for the Americas, and so many things happened. In the near future, the same thing will happen for moon. Moon has certain minerals which are extremely important for any national productivity. It has something called helium-3, which may be our answer in the future for all the energy needs of Earth itself. Moon may also be a permanent habitation for humankind. It may be a strategically very important location for taking care of the Earth in case an asteroid or a meteorite is about to strike. It may be the base of defense there. So moon in 50 years from now would be one of the, an important destination for humankind habitation itself. And I think the effort of great scientists like Dr. Kalam, who started in 1979 with the SLV-3 rocket, which landed in the Bay of Bengal. And then in the next year, they learned from it and then successfully launched India into space, to the point of scientists like Dr. Nair, who took India with Chandrayaan-3 mission on the moon for the first time. I think it's a great journey. And I'm very sure that it's not going to be if we have learned from our mistakes in the past, we will learn it again. We have done everything right this time. We're using data from Chandrayaan-2. So everyone who said Chandrayaan-2 was a failure, here's an answer, because all the pictures from Chandrayaan-2 will be crucial to the success of Chandrayaan-3. And tomorrow will be a great day in the history of this nation.
Yeah. We all spoke about the technical aspects of it, but, I want to talk about a lighter aspect. We had some beautiful pictures come in this morning. If I can ask my producers to pull up those pictures of the scientists of ISRO at Tirupati. I'll just play those pictures and I'll ask that question to Dr. Madhavan Nair. If you can pull up those pictures. We had, there they are, the scientists at ISRO at Tirupati. Now, they went in. Now, what went almost unnoticed was what they were carrying in their hands. You know that white bag that one of the scientists is carrying? It had a prototype. It had a prototype of Chandrayaan-3, a small prototype to seek the blessings of Lord Venkateshwara. And then they just walked in and walked out. The ISRO chairman was also there. And a word, Dr. Nair, for the scientists at ISRO, they're very, very, very simple people. Very simple people who just go about doing their job to take India into greater space heights. And this tells you the story of India's space program. It tells you a story, isn't it, Dr. Nair? And you've seen them, you've worked with them, you've nurtured many of them, right?
Yes, certainly. I think I'm very happy to see that the new generation who grew up with Dr. Kalam and myself, they are in the leadership position of ISRO today. And they are really the taskmasters. No failure will deter them. With a lot of determination, they will come out with innovative solutions and make sure things happen. But of course, the mission like the Chandrayaan-3 is very, very complex. We do everything possible from our side. Whatever we know, we try to correct or reset, retune, and so on. But at the same time, there is an element of uncertainty which is involved, and which many people interpret in many ways. So the divine grace is something which I think all of us, every human being is looking for in some way or other. The visit to the Tirupati temple before any major launch by the ISRO team has been a regular schedule, and I'm very happy to see that my friend Somanath is very much there and carrying the feelings of the entire ISRO team and placing before the Lord, and so that nothing goes wrong, and praying for the success of the mission. So this certainly gives a psychological relief to the people who are tensed up during the launch time, and I'm sure everyone will be holding their breath from the launch until the August 23rd, until we have the landing maneuver. And this is really going to be a big series of events which has to take place, and the type of confidence which we gain by praying to the God is going to be of something great.
Yeah. And as we say sometimes, or rather most times, you do whatever is humanly possible and you leave the rest to God, isn't it? And like, Srijan also said that in this particular mission, ladies and gentlemen, We've looked at images from Chandrayaan-2 to choose a landing spot. So everything that we've learned from the past, we are utilizing and putting to use in Chandrayaan-3. On that note, I'd like to play a video, Dr. Nair, Srijan and Dr. Kapoor. It's a 4-minute curtain raiser that ISRO has put out. It's a beautiful video. And many people still haven't seen it. We played it out, about an hour back. I'd like to play it. I think now is the perfect moment to play it. It's a 4-minute curtain raiser that tells you all about Chandrayaan-3. And while I play that video, I'm also going to thank Dr. Madhavan Nair, Srijan and Dr. Kapoor, because I don't want to keep you waiting. I'm playing that video out. Thank you, gentlemen. Expecting that you guys will join us tomorrow morning as well. And we start the build-up tomorrow morning. And looking forward to having you live with us on Republic all day long. Thank you very much. I'm playing that video.